Just want to thank every one of you guys for coming to this today. I know you're all very busy, so thank you for taking the time to do this. So just to give you guys a quick little snippet of where AMGI started from, it was the brainchild of Colin Brady, who wanted to make the fastest, highest quality animation, but in real time, and ran through the Unreal Engine. So about a year and a half ago, that was a crazy idea. And, fast forward till now, we're getting a lot of attention because of it. So, Epic has been a huge part of what we're doing. They've been very, very helpful to us. They've supported us along the way. They've given us mega grants and just been overall really supportive. So that leads us to now and what we're here to discuss for the Epic Virtual Production Summit for 2020. And how virtual production is becoming a huge part of the entertainment industry and also the animation industry. So gathering iconic veterans and just super experienced people like yourselves to come together and just kind of talk about kind of what it is that's going on in the animation space today with virtual production, and also kind of just, you guys have seen what we're doing. And kind of what you guys think, how you think AMGI kind of plays into the future there. So, maybe Colin, you want to kind of say a little something real quick?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a lot of what we're doing, I'd say, started a long time ago. I mean, even back on the first Toy Story, Jill and I were working together. I think the very first day that all the animators were hired on Toy Story, and having a lot of fun. But very quickly, as we were getting into animation, I was noticing some of the best animation was coming from animators that were getting out of their chairs and acting out the shots with their bodies or with their hands, or just sitting in their chairs and acting things out. And so even back then, we'd be talking about how to animate Mr. Potato Head and say, well, he basically walks like this, and make sure you put his feet underneath his body. And even back then I thought, well, wait, if I just did that with my hands, why can't that already be captured and put in the computer? And so at that time, people said, well, that's, motion capture, and that's kind of cheating, and that's not really our style. And I thought, well, yeah, but just to get the first blocking there, it'd be really, really fast. So years later, I was working for ILM and really fell in love with the motion capture process, but more in a puppeteering kind of way. And then I also visited the Henson stage. So putting all these ideas together, mixed with the fact that now we can actually render stuff in real time using Unreal, like all these things put together, is kind of where we're at AMGI, which is real-time body and face cartoon animation. So many previs animatics that are out there often have characters that are, well animated, but they're all humans, and usually they have no facial expression, or they have helmets, or just a frozen facial expression. So starting at the place where I said, if face is such a hard thing to do, let's start with the face. Let's make really super expressive faces, and eyes that are always focused and looking at something, and faces that have a very squashy and stretchy kind of quality. So we started with the hardest problem, which we believe was that, and then working backwards, we should be able to produce really, really fast animatics, but even real-time completed animation at a fraction of the time that normally has been done. So with that, we're lucky enough to meet up with some old friends, and Teddy and Jill and our new friend Rich and Stacey. And we're just excited by what they bring to the table and hearing some of their opinions.
I have a question for you, Colin. The technology started as layout blocking, like camera blocking, and then like kind of transformed into creating animation in real time. Is that how you is that kind of the history of how this technology came about? Or were you all trying to solve for like real time graphics generation?
I think even going back to even ILM days, it was always about how do we get a person acting something out, but acting out something that doesn't look like a person, acting out a character that has much different proportions. And I think a lot of it started out because we're all experts on human motion, whether we know it or not. Even a 2-year-old knows human motion. So I thought, how do we make a very fast animation blocking process? So we started with characters first. And because usually the process was so expensive, or overly technical that felt like a barrier, or you had to jump through a lot of hoops to organize these motion capture shoots. Finally, the technology has gotten to the stage where it's very user friendly, or at least for our studio. So I think it did start with character first. Quickly, it kind of launched into seeing that even after the most beautiful layout shots were completed, often they were very cold. They were missing an organic quality. So then we started saying, let's use our stage to start making the camera moves more organic, more handheld. And so I think, but it did start with character first.
Yeah, and like how you described, like the Mr. Potato Head thing with the walk, and then the facial. Like say you were creating a scene, you know, like that for a film using this technology. Is it the way you build it? Is it that first, is it like laying down tracks and music or something that you would first start, okay, we're going to, whatever means, like first we're working out the walk,
Yep.
and you get it kind of to where you like it. And then, all right, now we're going to lay in the facial. So you do another pass where then it's read from the face, and then that's all kind of layered into one complete scene? Or is it that you try to do all that at the same time? Like, I'm just trying to kind of figure out the process of it.
I think layering is the best example. Music, the analogy to creating a song is the clearest analogy I could think of. We found the process works best with animating body and face at the same time, and looping the pre-recorded audio track. So we get into a groove, and we'll do like 3, 4, 5 takes in the same way that you might record audio, the voices for your characters. So we get into a groove, and as the audio is looping, it's usually by the 3rd take, we kind of get it. And then we save that take, and then we record a 2nd character. We get that character right. And we can often play back the 1st take with the new character. And so we get each layer until it's right. Then we may have a prop that has to, airplane or something that flies in. Then we get that right. We're calling out circle takes as we're recording it. Usually, on stage, you just kind of feel it. But we call out circle takes. And then when that scene is done, the technician will quickly put the selects together all in one scene. We review it live, and we say,
right,
got it. And maybe we'll get a quick camera angle to just get the thing recorded. If then we wanted to go in and do a camera pass, great. But essentially, once we know we have the performance, we move on to the next scene.
Right.
Having said that, if I could chime in, Colin, like one of the beauties of the process, at least from my kind of new experience, I think it's new for everybody, but what's beautiful about it is you can do passes depending on what you're going for. Like for art direction, you could just play in art direction for a long time. You could put on a whole play. You could do it just for animatics. So I guess it just depends on what are you doing and what do you want. It's as flexible as you want to do.
And it's a tool that can be used not just in animation, but camera layout, as well as art direction, it sounds like. So so it's not just for one part of the process, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, we'll start even in the first week of production. If we have a rough idea of the set, we want to quickly mock it up, what we call layout blocking or scene blocking. Even if it's just cubes and spheres, usually it's much more than that. We get it onto the stage and we start playing with camera. So we already start doing our location scouting. So even as the storyboard artist might be thumbnailing out the scene, we might have an establishing shot that there's no need for them to thumbnail that out. We might just start already cutting in the rough 3D camera moves for shots that require a lot of 3D camera moves.
And I'll just ask one more thing and give some a chance, but and not to get too inside baseball or too inside animation with it, but in an animated performance, and especially in theatrical animation, there's primary action, there's secondary and tertiary action, being like the clothes that follow through with a main action or hair. How do you do that? how do you account for like overlapping action and secondary and tertiary action? Is that a
yeah, no, I mean, the beauty of this process using the video game engine, you kind of get a lot of the stuff for free, or it's already built into the engine. And
so it's built, yeah.
Yeah, so anything that you add joints to, like whatever, an arm or a hair is a good example, or chains, or it could be an octopus. Anything that you add a bunch of these joints in can be turned into a physics object that looks exactly like real physics. That object can interact with the ground if you want. I mean, you could record it, you could turn it on or turn it off. I like getting it on stage, and if possible, because often the actor finds there's a certain chemistry, or there's a certain rhythm of their own performance that actually works really well with the overlapping action, rather than just doing the primary performance first and then trying to figure out the way. So we record all this stuff and then export it to the animators, and they could use it or throw it away. I mean, that's they see it, and it goes right back onto the higher end rig, so that they can look at the actual controls, or they could just simply delete it and use it as reference.
When using it for character animation, is it the final product, that comes from this technology, is it production ready? Does it, or does it need some love, by some animators to kind of go in and kind of juice up the performance at all? Or are you seeing that this is really close to creating production ready shots?
Yeah, I would say for episodic shows, for streaming shows, I think it's absolutely ready to produce final shots. We have several shows we're talking about right now that do require a lot of live theatrical improv productions. That's perfect. It's perfect for improv theater. However, there are certain things that I'm such a perfectionist about, including eye direction and eye animation. So as great as the technology is, we can capture eyes pretty well, but getting that rock solid focus on an object, or the darting around the room, is something that I often like, if nothing else, just cleaning up that part in the animation process. But certainly the animators then, what I love about working with animators is they might adjust the performance, get better silhouettes. I like putting the animator back in control of the camera to make sure that they're really focused on silhouette, pushing some of the poses, nudging the performance, and getting it just right. So ultimately, I see this as a way to get us 60, 70% of the way there. And then I do about 30% cleanup with my team.
So there is still room for the animators, to have some creative control over
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And there's some scenes that I would say this is not the right tool. If it's Scratch chasing an acorn around the world or through the sky, I might say to the animator, these scenes, just go for it. We're not going to shoot any motion capture. However, sometimes it is fun. I mean, even with just like little simple boxes like this, sometimes we will block out the puppeteered motion just to get the basic blocking there. So even if it was Scratch chasing a acorn around the world, for us, it may be worth it to just go and just start blocking out just the timing of just what his body motion would do. And that would help out tremendously, even in a first animation blocking pass.
Well, I'm sold.
I've known Colin for a really long time. We've worked together at Pixar and at ILM. But what I love most about AMGI and this new company that he's started is that the team is so open for experimentation. And this is something, a lot of times you go to studios and they have a very pat way of doing things, but AMGI is not only innovating as they go, but you can come to them with difficult problems. I had a series that I wanted to do that had some big challenges, and the enthusiasm from this group to solve problems and to try to make things go quicker, easier, faster, but also not sparing any quality is just amazing. That's what I really love. And I really feel like with the COVID situation going on, a lot of production in the film industry has just come to a halt but animation has just caught fire. Literally everyone is working from home, doing Zoom meetings like this all day long, and features and series are getting made. Right now, there is an insatiable appetite that's growing for streaming programs, and animation is a part of that. So we need to learn to make product quicker, but at a high quality level. And AMGI is such a fantastic resource to have in this industry right now. It's amazing. And I can't wait to see where they go. And I'm so happy to be a part of this group. It's really exciting.
Thank you so much, Jill. Yeah, you've been a huge advocate of us and helping string this whole thing along. So yeah, thank you so much.
You never say no. You just you think for a moment. It's Colin's favorite thing, actually. Like I have to say, like when Colin and I were animators together at Pixar, one of my favorite stories is that I would get so frustrated with the technology, because this was the first feature film ever done on solidly on computer, our first computer animated feature. So I would sit at my desk and just get so frustrated, and Colin would say, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "None of the technology is working." And he would say, "Scoot over." And he'd be all excited, like it's broken. Let me figure out how to fix it. And so that's the energy that I feel from this group, which I just love. I have to say, there is not very many studios out there with that are so inspiring, just in the way they want to change the technology and further it. That's a rare gem in this field. So very excited for you guys.
No, thanks, Joe. I mean, I do have a weird, like, sick pleasure in when the software is buggy, because then if we know how to work around that bug, it means we're the only ones that know how to get around that bug, and the rest of the world is like, you know, still trying to figure it out. So I like working with like this bleeding edge software. And also, you know, the software is not necessarily made for animators. So it's pretty clunky at best for an animation pipeline. So we learn to navigate kind of through that. So yeah, I do love those problems. And one of my favorite things is when the crew is like, "We can't do that," or "That's impossible." That's, I think, when I kind of go into the next gear, and I really won't sleep until we figure out how to solve that problem.
I think also one of the things that's super great about what you're doing here at the studio is that with the technology you have, there's finally a chance to do things in a very improv kind of way. I know that studios have come to you, even musicians, to try to do virtual concerts, which is now a really big thing. But what I see is on everyday shows, just the spontaneity of being able to like mess around and come up with something that's actually funnier than what's scripted. The traditional way of doing animation is so plotted out. It's script and every single shot is plotted, and it's hard to get that spontaneity. But really what you guys are doing lends itself to finding those happy accidents and those wonderful little moments that make a scene perfect. And you can actually capture them in the moment. That's great.
When I left Pixar and went into the other big studios, I did feel like a lot of these places were trying to either just catch up or pick up where Walt Disney left off, or there was some feeling of not needing to know like how an animated movie was made, and then they just make one too. But that was frustrating, you know. that was really frustrating. And so when Colin called me up, and I was very excited, you know, because I noticed something that was happening. It was like a lot of like fun energy, especially since all the artists are grouped together. We were all kind of in the room together, and I was just a lunch guest, but I kept coming back, and I kept coming back so regularly that I think you just gave me a desk, and I don't even know if we ever talked that I would like be working for you. I just started working there casually. But why I did is because every time I'd come back, the last conversation that you were having with the crew actually was manifested the next time I showed up. I mean, it was literally made. And that was something I wasn't seeing ever in a lot of these studios. And so I was excited by the idea of the momentum of producing things rapidly. And that's like one reason. The other reason is, I think with a lot of studios trying to get into animation really quickly, I'm almost astonished how much they don't seem to recognize a storyboard, like and like as part of like a step in the process. And so seeing this Real engine kind of at work, I feel like it's almost a clearer way for a novice to understand what they're getting, rather than drawings, in regard to even the boarding of a movie, conceiving the movie in this way. Though it seems like unconventional, I actually think it would be very helpful to anyone who wasn't an animator, you know? Anyway, but that's what I was very excited about.
Part of our process is like, we know storyboarding is always going to be a part of that process. We know, you know, what our tech can offer is kind of like getting you a little bit of ahead of the curve and not having to storyboard every single moment. But still, for those you know, heartfelt moments that need to pull out emotion, do all that, you know, you still want to have a traditional boarding artist and stuff like that, or a team of storyboard artists. But yeah, we found a really nice kind of blend between the two that works well for us.
You know, I think one of the things that I'm going to echo some of what Jill was saying, you know, I started at a very young age in the time of Steve Jobs at Pixar, where innovation was at the heart of everything that we did. And, you know, it instilled that sort of value in everything that I will do forevermore. And I think that's one of the things that that really intrigued me and caught my attention when starting to talk to Colin at AMGI, is that it harkens back to that time of always asking the what if question, you know, like, what if this happened? What if we did this? What if we put these two things together? And I just love that kind of curiosity and exploration, and like Jill said, you know, not being afraid to sort of dive into the unknown of you know, the unknown potential. And it is very reminiscent of that time for me. And I just, yeah, I think it's really exciting. And as a producer, you know, I think, you know, part of your job, or you can think that your job is to sort of get rid of some of the unknown variables when you're working in a pipeline and in a process. But I think I tend to do the opposite and want to run into the fire. So this also speaks to that for me. And yeah, I mean, I just think the potential is so exciting. And, you know, I think that there's something really to what Teddy is saying as well, in terms of helping to sort of bring the material that much further along, that much quicker for your, you know, whoever you're auditioning your material to. I think that is just is a huge advantage to this, in terms of how you're able to get people on board across the board, you know, at a faster, you know, quicker place. So without, you know, without a lot of people, without a lot of time, and with a lot of flexibility. So plus, you know, I mean, once you hear Colin talk just for a second, like, you'd follow that enthusiasm anywhere. So there's that. Yeah, so I'm super excited to see where this all heads, and I'm along for any of it.
Yeah, I met Colin, boy, was it 2006 or something? I think we were working at a studio. I was fresh out of school, went to Art Center, and I was production designer for an animated movie that we were working on. And yeah, years have passed, and I keep, every time I think I'm out, he pulls me back in. But yeah, during a lot of that time when I was after that movie and between then and now, I went off and started doing indie movies, live action stuff, writing, and I come from animation, so I would storyboard out every shot of my indie movie, and I'm very meticulous, and I know my angles and all that stuff. So when I'm shooting, because I'm shooting an entire movie in 17 days or something, it's you have to just be as meticulous and as prepared as possible. So Colin's always been talking about this like motion capture stuff. I don't really get the technology as much. It's never been like my passion, but this feels like an indie movie. It feels like I can step in and hold a box with a bunch of dots on it, and Colin will go, yeah, move it around and see it works. And yeah, and as I move a box around, I'm telling actors what to do, and I'm seeing their faces, and I'm watching these characters in real time. And it feels just like doing an indie live action thing. So I love it. And also with the art direction side, being able to have my golden hour whenever I want, as long as I want, and being able to say, this location isn't great. We can easily move our camera, and even getting coverage, which you don't really get when you're doing an indie movie as fast live action as you are. This gives me that flexibility in the editing room to go, oh crap, I didn't get that thing I need. I didn't get the right angle of it. We can just move our camera or bring another guy out in a suit and pick it up. It's amazing that way. And I've seen it come from where it did look very video gamey at first. And now I'm just watching these real fur characters walk around in lighting with depth of field and all these things that are so relatable to a live action shoot. It's amazing. I just love it. And Colin's letting me play around as much as I want right now. So yeah, I'm a kid in a candy store right now.
And you touch on something that's interesting too, that, it did used to be very video gamey. And I mean, being on the cutting edge as things are being updated, there's updates made every week, every month. And, we don't know what Epic's going to come out with in 5 days, let alone 3 months, So it's just up to us as a crew just to be on that front line, keep pushing forward, keep making sure that we're always up to date and up to speed on things, because, we're always pleasantly surprised what is updated and how that pushes the quality forward. So it's a pretty amazing thing that's happening.
It was interesting because I've worked at many animation studios, just specifically animation. And oftentimes you have to create technology for one film. And in the day, films used to take 4 to 5 years to make. So you're not really advancing technology at a rapid pace. I mean, we were on Toy Story because we had to. But the interesting thing about working in an animation studio, and then I've also worked at Sony ImageWorks and at ILM, which were visual effects houses. Visual effects houses have to adapt very quickly because they have live action films coming in with each specific need. And so their technology changes very, very quickly. And I think what was great is to see Colin go through that same process of working at both animation studios and visual effects studios, where you have to solve problems very quickly. So you have to keep your technology up to speed and up to date, and you have to keep trying new things. And that's what I love about AMGI, is that it feels like a combination of both of those things, a studio that's kind of a visual effects pace of changing their technology on a rapid basis, but also with that background of really high quality animation as a foundation and a goal. So very exciting.
Animation is about evolution. It's we're not doing animation the same way that Walt Disney did it back on Snow White. Our process evolves, and how we produce the shots, the movies, has to keep up with the times. And it makes me think that it's like our job is to tell timeless stories that will last a long time, that will seem like they'll be around for years to come. But we do that with breakthrough technology. The way that they were doing it even 30 years ago isn't the same as how they're doing it now, or 20 years ago. So I think it's always important that as we're developing these stories that speak to a wide audience, and not just today, but in the years to come, that we do it in a way that keeps up with the times. And we are in a moment right now where things are, where's it all going? You know, will there still be theaters? Will it all be streaming? Nobody knows right now. But I think we all kind of agreed that we have to figure out some new ways to make animation. And that's why I get excited about AMGI and just meeting the guys and the people that work there, that it comes from a very kind of creator, you know, artist-centric, you know, approach to it. You know, when we talk about this stuff, I get it. You know, it's, I'm a cartoon maker, you know, so I'm not good at math. I'm not good at, you know, big science ideas. But when we're talking about character, when we're talking about the art, when we're talking about emotion, that these are the things that are important to me as a director. And it's important, you know, to the people at AMGI. I have a real comfort with the technology, and I understand what they're trying to do, because I love video games. You know, I play video games too much, you know, and having that experience, I would always think as I was playing, like, how are they creating graphics so quickly? You know, I'm moving a joystick and I'm instantaneously seeing the result of my choice. You know, it's the graphic generators, you know, and I knew about the Unreal Engine and really, you know, loved it and played a lot of games, you know, that use it, you know, as their engine. And I would even wonder, like, could it be used to, you know, generate graphics for a movie, to the point that when I directed Wreck-It Ralph, that came out in 2012, we actually considered using a game engine, you know, to create the graphics. Since it was a movie about video games, we thought, well, that's a nice tie-in. We didn't do that, of course, you know, but it's always been in the back of my mind, like, could that be a way to see results in real time, you know, as we're working on it, you know, and can it be something that still includes the artist, you know, that we're not trying to eliminate that step, you know, but like Colin said earlier, you know, that it builds a foundation, you know, on which, you know, an artist can build. And that's what we do in animation. It's each person kind of bringing their best, laying down their track, you know, and another person bringing their best and laying down their thing until it becomes a whole, you know, of a piece. And like I said, with the creative turmoil of where everything's going to go I think it was something that we would have to deal with eventually, but because of the pandemic, it put it right, you know, in front of us, right in front of our faces, that there's a lot of things that need to be solved, you know, going forward. Yeah. And I feel like the guys at AMGI have part of that puzzle kind of figured out. As a creator, as a director, it gets me very excited, you know, about how we can evolve animation, you know, so we are working with the most up-to-date, the most breakthrough kind of technology to continue telling those stories that hopefully delight and engage people all over the world and for years to come.
It's funny because he was even met with resistance within AMGI. Even from myself, there were times early on, because it moves so fast, but early on we rendered one of our characters with hair, and I remember just going, it was so disappointing. And within months, I mean, it was like you turned around, hair was perfect, and it was like,
wow.
So yeah, I've become a bit of a believer myself, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we, you know, we do have the ability to render things using the industry standard bells and whistles, all the expensive Arnold or V-Ray renderers that are out there. So internally, we like to set up a competition with ourselves. And it's a constant like little internal battle where we'll do the version as if it was rendered for a high-end feature film. Sometimes the frames will take 2 hours a frame to render. And then simultaneously, we'll launch the Unreal team and we'll say, try to match this look the best you can. And so they'll jump right on it. And there are times I'm like, that's amazing. Or, you know, how was that rendered again? I mean, there's been a couple times where I've been fooled and I'm like, was that a V-Ray render? And when I asked them, so how many seconds did it take a frame to render? And I remember one of the artists looking at me and saying, well, the whole scene took 6 seconds to render, like a minute-long scene took 6 seconds for the whole scene. So we're at a crazy place right now where it actually plays faster live than it takes to actually render the frames. So the time it takes to figure out, to put the frames in a folder, like that seems to be taking the time as opposed to just doing it live. So there's many times that we even have talked about not even rendering, just using live video feeds and just capturing that. And that would, then we truly are doing live animation. So that's how fast this stuff has become. And it's also because it's so fast, we treat it as, we're not precious about it. We're not precious about a performance. It's all throwaway. Or we can use it to get us to the final image. But at any time, it's just like, no problem, throw it away, do it again, do it better. Yeah. So I think like, I'm all about iterations and you know, feedback loops. And the more that the art can influence the technology and the character design and the story, and then back to the technology and back to the art, like the more I get all these people talking and the more tries we get, we get all our mistakes out of the way much faster. So yeah, I'm kind of like a speed demon, just trying to figure out how fast we can go. But none of this means anything unless you have the ability to flex on a dime when someone like Teddy says, oh, you know, it'd be a great gag. And like, we want to be able to say, great, yeah, move that wall and bring this other thing here and scale this thing up 100 times larger. And let's go. Let's make that into a gag right now. And that's the kind of dream come true.
Good idea, Teddy. That was a good one, Teddy.
The scaling gag always works.
It's safe
every time. Scale it up 100 times.
All, but you know.
I know we're kind of coming up to close to the end here, guys. But I did want to, we have a little kind of thing it's kind of like a peek under the hood, if you guys are all interested to see it. As a animation company and a tech company and being super creative, we've kind of been pushing forward on some things that we haven't really released out publicly yet, and we can't really go into detail exactly how we're doing all of it, but we'd love to show you guys as kind of like the first ones to really see it. So I can share my screen. I know it's probably gonna be terrible playback, but I'll try it anyways. So what you can see here is Colin and one of our other, we call him our stage animation scientist Carl. They're talking into a phone, and just by their face, they're driving full body animations.
Oh, come on. Check this out.
Last time the phone rang and I didn't answer it, the boss was just like, hey, what are you doing not answering the phones? I'm paying you some good money. At least he's paying me in bananas.
Kind of overreacting, but hey, bananas. I like bananas.
Yeah, but he's like, yeah, you don't answer the phone anymore, you're gonna be fired.
Fired?
Yeah, fired.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, because you work so hard on everything, and you should get like more bananas, and you should be like cool with like whatever you do.
Yeah, I should get more bananas. Yeah. I'm very, very hungry.
Yeah. I mean,
bananas make me happy. Bananas make me very happy.
Oh.
They make me so happy I like to do a little dance.
Whoa.
I call it the banana dance.
Whoa. I'm gonna do it.
The banana dance. Yay!
I think that's a pretty good taste of it.
Yeah. So
wait, that's manipulating the arms as well as the facial.
Yeah, it's what we're doing is we're able to track the facial expressions, happy, sad, worried, thinking. And because we're building this on a video game engine, we're able to pre-animate a bunch of high quality animation, and that what you're seeing there is like really just the tip of the iceberg. But we can pre-animate little clips of the highest quality animation we want, and then smartly drive motions and blend them together.
And it keys off of expressions, like positions. Like, so if the eyebrows go up, that means arms go up.
That's exactly right. So we're using face to drive full body expressions, and we could, you know, there's a big future in this that we're going to be revealing soon. This is kind of a separate task, but it kind of is born out of the fact that we're using a video game engine. All of a sudden, all these other possibilities come into play. Like, wait a second, so you can have pre-recorded animation clips, and eventually, the crazy thing, it is eventually going to a machine learning AI kind of place.
Right.
I mean, I don't, you know, what's the date? I mean, in 10 years, can we use AI to generate Disney quality animation? Possibly, but none of that, but it has to first come from the inspiration of a person doing something. Yeah.
I love the idea that you can literally look into a phone and that app captures all your facial expressions. Oftentimes when we're working with actors on a stage, we just use their voice, but they're doing so much with their performance. We do this extra process where we have, you know, a lipstick camera face towards the actor, and then it logs everything, every line they've done. The animators can access that. They can use some of the facial expressions for inspiration, but right here, you're capturing the actual actor's face as they're speaking. It's pretty amazing, especially if there's some wonderful little nuance or quirk they do. You want to be able to capture that in the performance. It really brings the character to life that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So even especially during these COVID times, not only can the actors record the voices from home, but they can record their facial performance in 3D that we can take and retarget, put onto our characters. And, you know, you always want to push it further. You know, not always are you going to use it exactly as the actor performed it. But it does give you, like, once again, that 60% head start, especially in terms of lip sync or overall expression, even eye darts and things like that. It's really, really a fun head start. So we're just scratching the surface, taking that technology and now seeing what we can do. You know, what else we can do.
Hey guys, I apologize. I'm gonna have to sign off.
Thank you so much.
I have to on it too. So thank you so much for sharing it. It's I mean, I thought it was cool the first time I saw it, and it just gets better. So
thank you so much for being here.
I look forward to learning more about it, because I think
each and every one of you guys really to pull this together. I know it was last minute. What was it? Just like a couple hours ago, we're like, hey, let's do this together. So thank you all. I know your time is super valuable. You guys are all really busy, so really do appreciate every jump into this and doing this. We feel this is the beginning of something very big, and we're happy to have all you guys be a part of it. So more to come. And thank you guys so much for joining us today.